It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich Bitch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Hey, welcome back to another week of the More Pod. I'm super excited about this week's episode because travel is back, baby. We have a travel review today. Can't wait to get into it. I'm actually recording this from a hotel room. So if you hear like a mini fridge in the background, I'm sorry in advance. This week's travel episode is about LA. And I've been to LA a handful of times over the last several years. What I think is interesting about LA is that I always see its potential to be like the best place ever, but I don't ever actually feel like it's the best place ever. But it's a nice place. And in the past, I've typically come to LA to visit friends and do a little bit of work. And so, similar thing this time around. I just spent the weekend in LA. I flew in on Wednesday and then I took off on Saturday. So had a few days. I would say what I planned to do in LA is different than what I actually did in LA. But nonetheless, I was able to find some gems that I can share with you. So let's get into it. Leaving Minnesota in March is always a little bit dicey. It's a cross your fingers and hope for the best situation because the weather is typically shit. So, in classic March in Minnesota fashion, it snowed the morning of my flight. When it snows, the runways obviously have to be cleared and then the planes have to be de-iced. So, my flight to LA was a couple hours longer than it should have been. So we de-iced the plane on Wednesday morning. That took like an hour and a half. They left some panel open. We had to go back and close that. Finally got in the air. It was a great flight. I flew Delta like I always do. The airport experience was smooth. TSA pre-check, priority, clear, all the things, right through security. Boarded the plane early, sat on the plane forever for the de-ice situation. Had a great flight. I had a whole row to myself, which we love. And then when I landed, I actually rented a car this time. And that took a bit of time because the rental car centers at LAX are off property. Like they're at the airport, but they're off property. So I think there was like 7 stops on the shuttle between me getting my luggage at LAX and me picking up a car. But that's okay. That's what happens when you're in a larger city. The travel process itself could have been better, but it could have been worse. So we'll take it. Landed in LA. The weather was a little bit chillier than I would have loved, but it's been a cold winter across the entire country. And so it's like it was 50 degrees, kind of windy, kind of cold as fuck, a little bit rainy. But you know what? I left behind about 4 feet of snowbanks in Minnesota, so I was happy to be there. So I rented a car and for this trip, I ended up staying in West Hollywood. And West Hollywood is an interesting place. I think that I've stayed in West Hollywood probably every time that I've been to LA. And I think this will be my last time staying in West Hollywood. West Hollywood seems like an awesome place if you're into nightlife. If you want to go out, if you want to be on the scene, clubs, bars, late night dinners, West Hollywood's the spot. The daytime scene in West Hollywood is kind of non-existent. I ended up staying at Holloway House, which is a Soho House property. And that was interesting to experience and compare. So, Soho House is a members club essentially, and it started in London and they've expanded to major cities around the world. But I'd say there's definitely a more concentrated population, obviously, in the UK. When I was in London last summer, I joined Soho House as a member, the level of membership that essentially allows me to book hotel rooms. And what I love about it is that at some of their houses, they have like a cool co working scene. So it can be a really great place to meet other creative people and do some networking. However, every house is different. Like I've been to maybe four different houses now, three of them in London, and then this experience here at Holloway House in LA. And each house is actually really different. Like, although there are a lot of consistencies in terms of like the hotel rooms, like the vibe they give, the furniture they use, the socializing member house part itself is very different depending on the neighborhood you're in. The Holloway House vibe was a little, I don't know, stuck up, dare I say. It was okay. It wasn't the best vibe, but the property itself is in a great location. I enjoyed staying and checking out another Soho House. And it put me in a convenient spot to connect with friends, which is mostly why I chose to stay in West Hollywood. So the getting there was fine. I think that something that I've learned recently, and with this experience in LA, is that your travel day, regardless of where you're going, should essentially just be that it's a travel day. It's a wash. Like planning anything at all on your travel days sets you up for stress and exhaustion because from the moment I left home till the moment I got to my hotel in LA, I had already had an 11-hour day. Like that's intense. But what I did that night is I had plans. I had plans to meet up with friends. And so I went out and socialized. And while I loved that, I was very tired the next day. And so I think what I'm going to do moving forward in my travels is to treat that travel day as such and really just not try to squeeze anything else in to those days. I don't know if you have had that experience, but it's just tiring, you know? And it's like why are we cramming? Why are we rushing? That's really what I was feeling after I had had the day I'd had traveling. That kind of set the tone for my entry into LA, and so it's fair to say that I started off this weekend very tired. And so I had a lot of things I'd planned to do while I was in LA. I wanted to do a lot of thrifting, shopping, looking for some vintage pieces. I wanted to test out all of the like TikTok bagel shops and coffee shops that have been popping up and see if they're worth the hype. I did not do any of that, but I did go to Erewhon a couple of times. Let's just get into it. I'll give you the play by play. I'll share the good things, I'll share the bad things, and we'll give the city a rating. Wednesday night, as I mentioned, it was a travel day. I checked into the Soho House and then I did meet up with some friends. It was so fun to see these friends because I had met one of them in London and I had met one of them not in real life yet, but on the internet. And so we all happened to be in LA at the same time, which is really fucking fun. Like when you have friends that are kind of spread out across the world, the level of excitement for being together in the same place at the same time just like skyrockets the whole hangout to like outer space, right? Because you're like, oh my God, we're all here and we're all like in real life and it's so much fun. That was my Wednesday night. So I Couldn't even tell you where we went. The food was okay, so it doesn't matter that I can't remember the name, but the company was excellent and we loved that. Thursday, I started fresh and started off the day with a few hours of work from the Soho House in the morning. And that was great because I had some accounting things I had to do. I had some client work I needed to do. And so I enjoyed that, just kind of like being in the co working environment, having a little breakfast, having some nice fruit and some coffee, and just kind of getting shit done. From there, I went out to lunch with a friend. Um, Shout out KJ. KJ and I went to Bottega Louie, which is in West Hollywood, and it is an Italian restaurant. And it's one of those like kind of upscale, fancier, shiny kind of Italian places, which would be really good for like a work lunch with coworkers, friends, clients. Like that was the vibe it was giving. We had some meatballs, we had the burrata, and we had the bread, of course, and some broccolini for good measure. And that was really nice. We had a leisurely lunch. I had a glass of red wine because I was pretending like I was in Europe, even though I was absolutely not. But in those moments where it feels appropriate, it's like, yeah, I'm going to have the wine with lunch because I can. So that was really, really nice. And then from there, strolled down Melrose for a while. So there's tons of shops up and down Melrose, and Melrose goes like forever. But I popped into the Redone store, which was interesting because they kind of refurbish old Levi's jeans. It's really cool what they do, but they take old clothes and make them new again. And I had always seen them online, but a lot of these places where you see them online, they'll have like one brick and mortar store, like in New York or LA. And this was the case for Redone. So it was fun to just go in there, sometimes feeling like clothing, feeling its quality, like checking it out in person is just refreshing, especially if you're someone like me who orders like everything online, which is great for its own reasons too. But I enjoyed being able to go into the store and just kind of leisurely shop around. Also stopped into Glossier, got a lavender eyeliner that I absolutely did not need, but I wanted it and it was cute. Um, and that's about it. Had a really great day, leisurely. Um, have to admit, I wanted to go out to dinner and find like a really nice nighttime vibe to review for the pod, but I just wasn't feeling it. I was so tired. So on Thursday night, I ordered room service, got in a robe, sat in bed, and I ordered a burger and fries and another glass of wine. I think that's okay too. Sometimes I put a lot of pressure on myself when I'm traveling to make sure I'm doing the most that I can to bring really solid recommendations to the podcast. But I have to be honest, sometimes it's just really overwhelming and it can kind of pull you out of the moment. It's like when you overplan a trip and you kind of just rush through the agenda to check things off. And, sometimes it's okay to linger a little longer. Sometimes it's okay to skip, step 3 of step 4 on the itinerary for the day. And sometimes it's okay to just chill in your room in a robe and order room service. Because I think that's part of the travel experience too. Because I definitely don't have room service at home. So that was really nice. And I think my favorite part about room service was that the food was literally delivered on a silver platter. It was fucking silver, like the whole tray. And I felt like a princess. I loved it. Something else that I realized when I was hanging out in my hotel room is that, and I'd be curious to know if you do this too. I realized that I hoard water when I know that I don't have unlimited access to filtered drinking water. Something in my brain kicks in that's like, you might die of dehydration if you don't have an ample amount of drinking water with you in your room. I noticed this pattern because with my room service and just throughout the day, this hotel property offered like cans of water, complimentary cans of water, like 12-ounce cans of water. And that night at dinner, I just did a scan around my room and I realized that I had 6 cans of water just like lined up, ready to go, ready to hydrate. And without those 6 cans of water, like, would I have made it through the night? I don't know. But that was the mentality. It was really strange. And then I started just thinking about like other travels, and I literally always have to stop for water. So that was kind of funny. I wonder what that's about. Maybe some past life trauma. I don't know. But I'd be curious to know if you also get into this weird, like, water hoarding mentality when you are away from home. Because I've realized it's a thing. It's a thing for me. Friday, woke up, hydrated, and decided that I needed to go touch some grass. And so I drove from West Hollywood over to Silver Lake, which is on the east side of the city. And this was my first time heading over to the Silver Lake area. And I'm glad that I did because just in being around there for a handful of hours, I got the sense that next time I come to LA, I'd probably prefer to stay over on the east side of the city. And I don't know exactly why. I think it's just one of those things where it's like you vibe with an area or you don't. For me, the Silver Lake area felt a little more residential. It felt a little more cool. Like it felt more like hipster, I guess. And I think a lot of cities do have that where it's like one side of the city is kind of your more hipster vibe. The other side of the city is totally different. Like I experienced that in London with like Shoreditch versus Notting Hill, or in the Twin Cities of like Minneapolis and St. Paul. Very, very different vibes. So I loved the Silver Lake vibe. I actually went for a walk. So the grass and that I needed to touch. I went for a walk around, it's called the Silver Lake Reservoir. Basically, it's a man-made lake. Um, so there's like a path that you can walk around it. It's about like a 2-mile loop, I think. There's also like a dog park, and then there's also like this green space called the Silver Lake Meadows, like all right together. So that was a really nice moment. Got some exercise, breathed some fresh air, touched some grass, like I said, because for me it's been months. Um, and just hung out there. A lot of people just chilling. And that was really refreshing. I felt like after a few days in West Hollywood, I really needed to just get outside, especially since it's been winter in my home city and like snow winter in my home city. So that was fun. I walked around the lake, listened to some music, took some pics, and then I went over. There's a spot just right down the hill called the Silver Lake House. It's like a Thai spot. So I grabbed a Thai coffee iced coffee, and that was really nice and chill, and just kind of journaled, vibed there for a little bit. And then I went to Erewhon. Ah, yes, the moment we've all been waiting for. Erewhon is a grocery store, but it's not just a grocery store. Imagine the bougiest grocery store you've ever been to, and then multiply that by 10. That's Erewhon. So let me paint the picture. Complimentary valet parking. You drive to Erewhon, you have your car parked, you take the elevator up to the store level, and then you enter into, depending on what time of day you're there, a little bit of chaos, just in terms of the amount of people that are around. The store is gorgeous. It's head to toe. The shelves are stocked, like literally from the floor to the ceiling, full of food products. They have a juice bar. They have a hot food bar. They make a lot of their own like soups and broths and dressings. They also carry other brands, of course, as well. They have a really fancy, and you're like, Ava, I know, but like all grocery stores do that. It's just it's just 10 times more bougie than everywhere else. So, every grocery store typically has like a sushi, like a to-go kind of like pre-made sushi section. Of course, Erewhon has it too, but they have like a whole fucking bento box in the to-go section. They had roasted octopus in the like grab and go section. Like that's just not your average shop. They had, what else did I see that was really unique? Mushroom jerky, full raw honeycombs, mint jelly for lamb, black truffle, just all the things that you never knew that you needed, but you immediately need upon seeing them at the store. I bought a few random snacks. I bought like a little immunity shot elixir that had silver in it. Okay. I got a smoothie. And so the big thing at Erewhon is these like celebrity smoothies. Hailey Bieber's had one. There's been a Kardashian smoothie, I think. There's a Bella Hadid. And the latest celeb smoothie is the Jay Shetty. I was like, how perfect. I just talked about reading his book, The 8 Rules of Love. So obviously I needed to then continue the storyline with the Jay Shetty Love Potion smoothie from Erewhon. Now, these smoothies are like $19 literally. And then, of course, the smoothie bar wants you to tip as well. So a $22 smoothie, and you're like, what in the hell are you thinking? And I don't know if thinking even plays a role at this point. Like, you've experienced the extravagance of everything in the store, and then you're just like ready to buy. So this smoothie was delicious. It was like raspberry chocolate with a lot of different, like a lot of ingredients, but those were like the high level flavor profiles. And it was very, very good. And I felt fine paying $22 for the smoothie. So that either says a lot about me or a lot about the smoothie, or perhaps both. It was delicious. Highly recommend. Had I been staying somewhere with like a kitchen, if I was in an Airbnb setup, I definitely would have bought more food, but I just wasn't in that situation. But Erewhon is definitely something to see. I think there's like 6 kind of around the LA area. So if you find yourself in and around LA, you should check out the grocery store. That was my Friday night in LA. Not, again, your kind of typical maybe idea of like going out on the town, clubbing, late night dinner, fancy outfit. But I think that's the cool thing about a big city too, is that there are so many ways that you can do it. Like if you're feeling tired like I was and you're feeling like you just need a little chill time, there's options for that. So to wrap up the weekend, my friend Bridget actually flew into LA on Saturday and we met up for brunch in Los Feliz, which is a neighborhood also on the sort of east side of LA. And we went to Little Dom's, which is a super cute neighborhood style Italian restaurant. You definitely feel more like you're in New York than in LA on this particular street. It feels like a really good neighborhood vibe. Everyone there definitely seems like they walked over, for brunch from their house. And I really loved that. And I enjoyed being in that energy. This place also reminded me of like a cute little place I would have gone to in DC. And something about that just really resonates with me. This spot was actually a Dan Levy recommendation in Dan We Trust. And he had recommended this spot on Service 95, I think. So obviously, Bridget and I had to check it out. We ordered the ricotta cheese and fresh blueberry pancakes. And oh my God, they were so fucking good. That was it. It was like a smash hit, a home run. We had the pancakes, we had a side of bacon, we had mimosas. They had a cocktail on the menu called the Channel Orange, which, if you know, you know. I was like, yes, I'm in the right spot here. So that was amazing. And after brunch, we had a very leisurely, awesome brunch, catch up time. We decided, since we were nearby, that we would check out the Griffith Observatory. And I had actually never been there. So in my times in LA, I had not previously been here. But we were in the neighborhood, and so we decided to check it out. Basically, it's just a it's like super high up on the hills. And so you can go there and you can get a really great view of the city. So if you want to go somewhere to see the Hollywood sign, if you want to go somewhere to see a view of like downtown LA and just sort of all the city at large, the observatory is definitely the spot. It was free admission, but $10 parking. But that was fine. And there's a lot of hills going on around here. My lungs, if I'm being honest, were like not in the best shape for hills, but maybe they're in a little bit better shape now. So we parked on the hill and we walked up to the lookout point. And it's a really sort of like bendy, curvy type of hill situation. And every bend basically looks the same. So on our way up, we walked up there. I was huffing and puffing, but then, recovered. And we looked around, took some pics. Obviously, got to snap the Hollywood sign. It's just like obligatory when you're here. Saw some really nice views of downtown LA. And then on our way back down, couldn't really find the car. Like I said, all of the bends kind of look the same. I'm driving a rental car. It's a basic fucking silver Toyota Corolla. It looks like every other rental car. Didn't have the license plate memorized, but like thought it started with a 9, it started with an 8. It was just one of those situations. So we had a moment of semi-panic. And mostly what I was concerned about was, well, one, not being able to find the car, but two, having to do this like really steep incline walk. I mean, you could basically call it a fucking hike more than once, because I had already done that to get up to the observatory. And I was tired. The only reason I was able to find and locate the car was because I had an air tag in my suitcase in the trunk of the car. So this is a shout out to AirTags because it kind of saved our lives in that moment. So it could be a good idea just to leave an AirTag in your car. You know, if you're someone who's like a little bit directionally challenged or memory challenged, an AirTag in the car is a good look. I have them in my suitcases just so that I can track where my bags are at when I'm traveling, which is also helpful, but I haven't had to use them for that purpose yet. So, shout out to the AirTag and shout out to my mom because she gifted me that AirTag. Mom, if you're listening, you saved the day because we almost lost the car in the hills of California. But that was a great place to check out the city, take some photos, just make sure you track your car location properly. And then that was it. So Bridget and I drove down to the beach for the rest of the weekend, but that was our little fun brunch time in LA on Saturday morning. And it was such a vibe. Again, like I think it's so fun when you meet up with friends in different cities and you have just that little reunion moment, especially someone who travels solo quite a bit. Like it's fun and really special when I can have company, because traveling solo is great. And there are so many positives to doing so. You can meet people more easily. You can be kind of fully present with yourself and your thoughts in the moment. But there's also something really nice about being able to share a meal or an experience with a friend. So that was really nice. And like I do with each travel review, I like to give the trip itself a rating out of 10. While I like LA, I don't personally love LA. And I think I've finally come to that conclusion after, 4 trips to LA. I think it's safe to say that I don't love it, but that's okay. Plenty of people do. I like LA. It's fun. I think it takes a while to kind of find your stride here. I think it takes a while to kind of like identify the vibe that you really resonate with. But once you do, you can have a lot of fun. And like I said, if I was to do this next time, I would definitely probably stay on the other side of the city. I don't think I'd come back to West Hollywood specifically. I'm just kind of over it. There's tons to see and do. LA is a super iconic place. And so it's one of those things that I think everyone should do once to just be here, right? Because so much of what we consume in terms of movies and TV and music, like it's all created here. And I think there's a lot of really iconic visuals. Like LA is just one of those postcard kind of places, like you've seen it in your head. And it's nice to be able to experience that in real life. Overall, it was a nice trip. The weather was shit. It was pretty cold, but there was no snow. So we love that. The food was fine, a couple of really great moments and so a lot of mediocre moments too. The Soho House was good. Erewhon is dope. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I'd say my trip was a 7 out of 10. I would love to hear what you like to do in LA. I think it's one of those places where we need to kind of start a curation of recommendations because it is very hit or miss. But when you hit, obviously, it's great. So if you have favorite spots in LA, I'd love to know where they are, what you like to do. I think that's all I've got. Check out Lil Dom's. Eat the blueberry ricotta pancakes. You will not regret it. They're delicious. Go to Erewhon. Get an expensive smoothie. Browse the aisles. Experience free valet parking. That's the rich bitch life. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star rating, share a review, share the episode with a friend, send me a message on Instagram at the More Pod. And that's it till next week. Bye. Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.